Hello, hello! Welcome back to Brenda's Books. First, let me say how sorry I am that you had to wait until this week to hear this chapter. Last Tuesday, the day that I have available to write and record, I had no power in my house, and my whole city was actually out of power, and so I could do nothing. I literally sat at my kitchen table for hours and played Sudoku. So, that was fun, almost. Anyway, power's back on, life is normal. And I also wanted to say to all of you who filled out the poll to make your voice known for the bonus content you would prefer on Brenda's Books, thank you so much. I don't know who you are because it comes in anonymously to me, but thank you for taking the time to do that, and next week I will share the results. Anyway, you came here to listen to Queen Andraya, and this is Chapter 37. Here we go. Chapter 37, Trayson. The Queen tightened the reins, and Peanut slowed to a trot as the Sami village came into view in the distance. Andraya's arms shook violently with fright, and her breath came out ragged, as if she had just run for hours rather than her horse. She led Peanut around in a circle as her mind raced with frantic thoughts. "Oh, what am I doing here, Peanut?" she panted. "These people captured Steffan without giving him an opportunity to explain. They might do the same to me." Peanut whinnied and came to a halt. Andraya patted the horse's solid neck with anxious hands. She hopped to the ground and the horse nuzzled her nose into the Queen's face. "I am nervous too," Andraya said. "Where shall we go first?" Peanut nickered in response. "A rest. I agree wholeheartedly." Andraya leaned her cheek against Peanut's neck and took a moment to breathe in and out before slumping to the ground. She lay back in the tall grass and gazed at the cloudless sky. "Oh, to be in my palace again. I would take disrespectful councilmen over this any day. Tell me what to do, Providence. I must help Steffan. I cannot let him die here. I will not be able to think of anything else until I find him. But I do not know where to go or how to talk to these people. Steffan is the one who is good at that." A gentle breeze whisked through the fields. Andraya closed her eyes and let it glide across her cheeks and through her hair. She inhaled deeply. She did not know how long she lay there, but it was enough to calm her racing heart. Just then, the sound of footsteps brushed through the grass nearby. The Queen gasped and sat up abruptly. A short, tan-skinned man took a step back in surprise. "Oh, I did not see you. I thought this horse was lost." "No, she is mine," Andraya said. "But I am afraid we are lost together." "Where are you trying to go? Maybe I can help," the man said. He had a kind, boyish face, but his solid frame definitely showed the years of a hard-working man, perhaps slightly older than Steffan. The Queen surmised he belonged to the Sami people by the colorfully dyed animal skins he wore, as well as his bracelets made from the teeth of a coyote. Andraya got to her feet and brushed herself off. I am not certain exactly." "Why don't you join my family for supper? You look like you could use a meal." Andraya stammered again. "Would you feel more comfortable if I brought my child out to you?" "Oh, yes. Well, no. I will follow you." The man smiled a bright white smile and bowed his head. He turned around and walked at a swift pace. Andraya fell behind quickly as her legs wobbled like jelly while leading Peanut through the weeds. The man turned around. "Your horse does not look as tired as you. Shall I help you mount her?" "No, yes." Andraya blushed. She had never been so at a loss for words before. The man smiled kindly again. He jogged toward her and lifted her up and onto Peanut. "Thank you." He nodded and walked at his brisk pace again, with Peanut walking behind. Thankfully, they did not have to go through much of the village, as the man's home was the very first one on the southeast side. Andraya dismounted her horse and looked around for a place to tie her to. "Allow me," the man said, as he led Peanut to a wooden pole beside his porch. Then he opened his front door and motioned for Andraya to enter before him. But the Queen's feet were glued to the ground. "Get in!" the man called through the threshold.
Yes, Papa?
Andraya's heart boosted just a bit at the sound of his sweet little voice. Come meet our guest, his father called. Andraya heard some feet scamper around, but no child appeared. The man grimaced. I just forced him into hiding. He is quite shy. Won't you come in and sit down? He asked Andraya. The queen swallowed the nervousness bubbling up her throat and walked into the humble home. The front room was small, furnished only with 2 wooden chairs and a colorful circular rug on the adobe floor. The room curved around into a tiny kitchen. Although Andraya could not see what simmered on the wood stove, her stomach growled at the potent smell of beef tomato stew. Just a few feet to her left sat a small wooden table and a little person on his hands and knees underneath it. Please, come sit down, the man insisted, gesturing to a chair at the table. Andraya felt as if she should politely decline, but instead she did just as he said. The man placed a bowl of simmering stew in front of her and handed her a hand-carved spoon. Go ahead and eat. Thank you so much, said the queen. Just then the boy peeked out from under the table with curious brown eyes. Andraya winked at him, and he slipped out of view once more. She chewed her stew slowly, savoring each bite as it steadily warmed and filled her stomach. When she finished, she glanced up at the man who was staring at her with a curious gaze. The bowl in front of him looked like it had been empty for quite a while. That was delicious, said Andraya. Your wife makes a very good meal. Oh, I am no longer married. My wife died last year with the fever. Oh, I am so sorry. The man stood and placed their bowls in a basin next to them. Yes, I would have liked my Gaddon here to have a mother to care for him, but he is stuck with only me, I'm afraid. He smiled over at Andraya. A father is a good thing, she replied. The man did not look at her as he slowly rubbed a soapy rag inside a pan. I hope so. Then he looked up at her. I am Trayson. What is your name, dear? The queen hesitated. Andraya. Trayson smiled. That's a nice name. Where do you come from, Andraya? She hesitated again. Do you have a home? He asked. Oh, yes, I do, but She trailed off. Do you know how to get back? Andraya shook her head. Trayson dipped a bowl into a bucket of water. I will help you get home. You do not even know me. But I know you have a good heart. How do you know that? Trayson shrugged. I am good at telling these things. Gaddon, come eat your stew. Enough is enough. The boy slithered his body up against a chair like a snake would, until finally he was upright in his seat. He stared at the table in front of him until his father set down another bowl of stew, and the boy began shoving it in at a rapid pace. Manners, Trayson scolded. Andraya stifled a grin as the boy flushed and began chewing between spoonfuls. Do you have a husband, Andraya? Trayson asked. The queen's heart jolted. Oh, no, sir. Trayson's eyebrows shot up. I am not a sir. Please, call me Trayson. He placed a bowl of strawberries in front of Andraya and sat in the seat next to her. Gaddon's eyes bulged at the bowl of fruit. Stew first, his father said sternly. Gaddon scowled but continued chewing. Trayson, were you here yesterday when a mob attacked some visitors? Trayson stiffened in his seat, and so did Gaddon. How do you know about that? I heard about it. They were breaking the peace. I arrived after they captured the man. The other 2 got away. Andraya bit her lip. What did they do to break the peace? Trayson rolled his shoulders back. I do not know. But if one Sami says someone is breaking the peace, then we all agree. Even if you do not know the facts. Trayson tilted his head, looking at her with suspicion for the first time. Where are you from, Andraya? Andraya sucked in a breath. Do not worry, Trayson. I am not here to cause alarm. Abruptly she stood from her chair. She better leave before another pleasant conversation turned into an ambush. Thank you for the food. I appreciate it very much. I better be on my way. She turned and headed for the door. Trayson stood too. It will be dark soon. You cannot go out now, especially alone. Sami is not safe, Andraya said, turning to face him. Of course Sami is safe, but you plan to leave. No, I do not. I plan to find a friend. Who is this friend? Andraya sighed. I cannot tell you, Trayson. I am sorry. Why not? There was an edge to Trayson's tone now. Andraya knew he was not going to let her go without answers. Because you might think I am breaking the peace, but I am not. I only want to find my friend. Is this friend a blonde man? Trayson asked sternly. Yes, said Andraya, looking him straight in the eye. Then Trayson motioned to where Andraya had sat at the table. Come and sit. If you do not explain everything to me, I will have no choice but to call you a peacebreaker. But she's not, Papa, Gadon cried. Andraya cocked her head and folded her arms. What have I done? Trayson pointed a finger at her. Secrets mean lies. Lies mean trouble. Just because I do not reveal something private does not mean I am lying or trouble. It simply means I do not want to share it. Trayson considered that. I have never heard a woman speak this way. Well, I am... Then she caught herself. Nothing good would come from telling a Sami she was a queen, especially from Andraya. I am different. Trayson stared at her with a strange mixture of malice and admiration. Indeed, he said through his locked jaw. She's not a peacebreaker, Papa, Gadon cried again. Trayson's jaw slackened, and his tone returned to normal. He swallowed hard. I am willing to hear you out. Please, have a seat, Andraya, he said, motioning again for her to sit. She did so, and recounted her story. But instead of starting from the beginning, with her leaving Andraya as the queen, she started from the end, and told Trayson what had happened in the city streets, when she had escaped her protective friend Hudson. She told him all about her meetings with the slaves, and how they needed help from the Sami. Trayson sat next to her, listening intently, as if he would soon detect a lie on her lips. His son, now not feeling shy at all, sat on his lap, with wide, wondrous eyes. Andraya then got to the part where Hudson had raced her away from the Sami and left Steffan behind. It was not until Trayson's countenance softened that Andraya realized tears were spilling over her cheeks. Embarrassed, she wiped them away. What happened before Teska's father announced you were peacebreakers? He asked softly. Andraya sucked in a breath. He heard I was from Andraya. Trayson's eyebrows shot up. Andraya, you are a long way from home. But why would that matter to the old geezer? Well, because he believes that Andraya is trying to make all of Sandrian their slaves. But Andraya is not trying to do that. I just found out that my kingdom had been lending our ships to transport slaves to Gulin. But all of that will stop as soon as I can get back. Trayson gave her a most curious look. And why will it stop when you get back? Andraya's heart squeezed with anxiety. She placed her trembling hands in her lap. I will tell you, Trayson, if you promise not to call an attack on me. Trayson shook his head with vigor. I do not make promises I cannot keep. Andraya could not help but smile at that. You sound like Steffan. Trayson huffed out a breath, clearly irritated that her story had deviated. Who is Steffan again? The very good man your people are holding hostage, Andraya said a bit curtly. Then he is not as good of a man as you think, Trayson replied in the same tone. But he is. The only reason your people think he is a threat is because he is associated with me, Andraya retorted. And who are you? Trayson growled. Andraya straightened her posture and lifted her chin, the way she always did when Dolian interrogated her. I will not tell you because I know you will judge me wrongly. Trayson stood and glared down at the queen. I have never been spoken to by a woman this way before, and I will not tolerate it. Andraya stood too. Then I will no longer tolerate your intolerance. The queen realized how ridiculous this sounded only after she had spoken it, but it was too late. She lifted her skirt as if she were wearing one of her own elegant gowns, rather than her current ragged one, and marched to the door. You cannot go out after dark, Trayson boomed. Andraya turned her head to look back at him. I am not one of the Sami, Trayson. I can do whatever I want. And with that, Andraya stepped out onto the porch and into the night air. And that concludes Chapter 37. I hope you come back next Thursday for Chapter 38 of Queen Andraya, and to hear the results of what Brenda's book's bonus content will be. And as always, I hope you all have a lovely week. Until next time, take care.